Nothing was sighted, but something was felt. My boyfriend at the time had a less than friendly spiritual attachment that I believe laid in bed with me. This is 100% real and not falsified or exaggerated in any way. I was laying in bed in a hotel room just outside of Washington, D.C. on a school trip. The two people in the room with me, we shall call E and A for privacy reasons. E slept in the bed beside mine, and A was asleep on an air mattress in the corner of the room. Our curtain was drawn, and all the lights were out. I laid in bed with my laptop on my legs, writing my book. I remember it clear as day, the words I was writing and everything. I felt the warmth and weight of an arm come around my shoulder. While I was alone in bed, it felt so real to me that I leaned in a bit further. I felt the shoulder of an arm around me, then gasped and realized there was no one there. It took me a few days to fully shake off the feeling of fear that began to linger after my encounter. I had never experienced anything like that in my entire life before. 2 days later, I was sitting in the CVS parking lot on the way back home, waiting for my dad to pick up some chocolate. I felt it again. It felt lighter this time, more gentle. And instead of coming around me, it just rested softly on my shoulders. My boyfriend at the time worked in a nearby haunted sanitarium and had many spiritual encounters. I called him and asked what the heck it could have been, and we settled on residual energy from him being around me all day for 3 days straight. But something about that night still didn't feel right to me. Another interesting thing is my boyfriend, who we'll call G, at the time was a witch along with his mother. Without exposing any personal information, he's had a negative attachment since childhood. He and the boys in the hotel room with him, I'll call I and R, experienced things that same night. Three knocks clear as day on the second floor window, no balconies in the hotel. They've never gone into detail about the things they saw that night, but they definitely all experienced something. R took a picture of what was there, but I lost the image. I'll leave their stories to be told at their will, but an image captured a figure by the bathroom. The wall behind it was blank and there were no lamps. And on that side of the room, they couldn't have mistaken it for anything but the figure. I still think about that night, although I no longer speak to the group. I'm sure it hasn't left their minds. A new hotel has recently opened up here in Roanoke, Virginia. The building was a former business. Since I've been working here, me and a few other co-workers have experienced some very strange stuff in the building. We've been wanting to get someone in here, look at it, or do a ghost hunt, but we're not sure how the owners would feel about it. I've had several things happen to me, and I'll just tell you what I've experienced. I'll chat with coworkers later to see if they're willing to share anything that they've experienced. I'm always seeing movement out of the corner of my eyes. I've had a female voice say, "Hey," as I've stepped off the elevator, and I was the only person in the lobby when that would happen. I've also been cleaning again alone in the lobby, and while I was cleaning, I would hear whistling, like something out of the back of the lobby had just whistled at me, or someone. I've had doors open by themselves. We've had two separate guests check out early because they claimed that it felt like something crawled into bed with them. One guest said that something crawled into bed with them, snuggled up behind them, and another guest said that something crawled into the bed, and then they said it felt like it grabbed their wrists and started shaking them and said, "Can you hear me?" I've also had a motion sensor water fountain turn on and off by itself several times for 30 to 40 seconds. I will say one coworker told me that she actually seen a figure standing in the lobby wearing an older 1800s to 1900s attire. They were there one minute and gone the next. Hello, Spooky Appalachia. I wanted to share a few creepy things that happened to me when I worked at a hotel in Christiansburg, Virginia. I had been their maintenance worker for about 2 years, and here and there I would hear rumors about hauntings and strange occurrences. I'm not a non believer, but I'm also not the type to jump at every little thing and try to tie it to something supernatural. Some of the housekeepers had told me that the hotel beside us had a man in it who took his own life a few years before I had started working there, and claimed that some of them would try to communicate with him and have him turn on lights on and off in the guest rooms. While I didn't have any lights turning on and off during my time inspecting the rooms, I did have a few things happen that were a little eerie. One night, a girl at the front desk asked me to go into one of the rooms, grab some extra pillows for a guest on one of the upper floors. The room she gave me was marked as clean and vacant, so I could just go in and retrieve some of the pillows in the closet. I made my way up to the floor that the room was on and started to use the card key to open the door when I thought I heard at least three, maybe four voices on the other side of the door. I couldn't make out what they were saying or what they were talking about, but it sounded like when people would gather for a regular social event. I even tried to direct my hearing to the door beside of it, thinking maybe it was just the room next to it. But that room didn't seem like the voices were any clearer or well placed with it. So I knocked on the room that was supposed to be empty, and abruptly the voices stopped. I called out something like, "Maintenance, I'm entering the room. Is there anyone currently here?" And no response or movement. I opened the door to complete darkness until I flipped the light switch. The room was empty. No TV was on. There were no suitcases. There wasn't even an overhead fan going. It was complete silence, and I felt a chill go down my spine. I went to the closet to retrieve the pillows, and nothing else happened. I felt a little silly for letting my imagination get to me. But when I came out of the room, I thought to myself, why is it so quiet here now? Wouldn't the group have picked up the conversation once they realized I was not coming in if they were in a different room? My second situation was in broad daylight and spooked me even more than the night of the voices. I was doing my usual rounds and waiting for 3 o'clock to roll around, so I passed my time by collecting trash bags from all of the bins and taking them to the dumpster out front. I don't remember what I was thinking about, but as I was heading back to the hotel from the dumpster, I heard footsteps quickly approaching me from the behind. Just to give you some context, I had a supervisor that would sometimes scare me just for fun, and he would scare me when he had the opportunity. However, because the dumpster is near the front of the hotel and not secluded, there was no place somebody could quickly or sneakily emerge from, and there is no good place to quickly hide. You have a wide view of everything around you at this spot. With that said, my brain quickly believed it was my supervisor. I spun around with a gotcha expression, but there was no one else outside with me. There were no cars in the parking lot and no trees nearby they could have just ran over to and hid behind. I felt almost speechless because I knew I heard footsteps quickening their pace on the asphalt. I sometimes wonder, what if I didn't turn around? Would anything have happened? Would I have been shoved or felt a gust of wind? Maybe would have been nothing. But that sound was all the proof I needed to believe something could have been there. I don't know how many or if there are spirits there, but I do believe there are a few that stay there and they don't mind letting you know you might be sharing a room with a wanderer or two. Since its opening in 1901, the Low Hotel has been a haven for Ohio River travelers. The hotel has had many guests over the years on its upper floors, while the ground level was bustled with commerce such as a barber shop, bank, billiards hall, and even a dance floor. The hotel is also home to several ghostly residents. A young woman's ghost is spotted dancing gracefully on a platform between the first and second floors. On the second floor, the full-bodied apparition of a child pedals a tricycle up and down the halls, its wheels emitting an eerie squeak, squeak sound through deserted corridors. On the third floor, guests report hearing faint whistling and the sounds of doors opening and shutting on their own. In room 316, the spirit of Captain Jim is often seen gazing out the window towards the Ohio River. I personally have had the opportunity to stay at this hotel several times over the years and may have had some experiences of my own. It was around 2018 or so. I went up to help out at the Mothman Museum like I do sometimes. It was right after New Year's and in the middle of a downpour. I got there at about 8:30 p.m. to check in. The lady at the front told me that I was the only guest there at the time, so I figured it was going to be a pretty quiet weekend. I then made my way to my room on the second floor to settle in and get some rest for the night. About as soon as my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep. That night, I was woken up quite a few times by the sounds of people talking, walking down the hallways, and doors closing. It didn't really register to me until the next morning when I woke up and remembered I was the only guest. This spooked me a bit, but I carried on with my day, not thinking much of it. The second night, I didn't hear a single thing till about 2 a.m. when I heard a loud knocking sound at my door. Startled, I woke up, opened the door, and to my surprise, there was no one there. I had heard stories about the place and how it was haunted for a couple years before staying there, and I thought it was pretty neat to have a few of my own stories from this amazing place. I've stayed there several more times over the years, but haven't had anything else happen. So what'd y'all think? That was actually one of my stories. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I hope y'all enjoyed this collection of haunted hotel stories. Let me know what you think of my story and the others in the comments. Definitely love these stories. Thank every one of y'all that has sent these in. I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. And we'll see you in the next one. But don't forget, stay spooky.